more deals. It's over. The final act. Your race. It's over.
Hey guys, mostly with Negron Tech here. So I am finally bringing you the follow-up to the Guts build, the Ultimate Melee Compendium. This is going to be the pure melee build, my favorite playstyle, my favorite classes, Fighter and Barb. You know, everything about them, heavy armor, singular focus and simplicity to deal the most amount of damage in melee with a great weapon as possible, as fast as possible. This is it. This is my role-playing class archetype fantasy. Can't wait to bring it to you. Alright, so this will be a full game guide, acts 1 to 3, early game. I'm going to try to be as quick while being thorough and efficient in getting through all this material. Now, early game, this is undisputed. The Barbarian is the best early game two-handed great weapon wielding melee class. You get 3 attacks at 5. You get permanent advantage to offset Great Weapon Master at level 4, which pretty much is one of the only melee classes that can consistently use Great Weapon Master early in the game. Very, very, very good. Then you go 3 levels in the fighter. Go any subclass, they're all good. The only way I would go Eldritch Knight if you want to be more defensive with the spell access, using Shield as a reaction or Blur as concentration, and then you can use Weapon Bond if you want to use that and do a throwing build. That is a viability, but this is not that. We're not doing Tavern Brawler. We are pure melee build. I'll get this out the way, right? I will come back to this, but when it comes to this as a late game class, normally when you get to a level 11 fighter with heavy armor, just outscales it. It's going to be better, more consistent. Action Surge with 3 attacks is just so goddamn good. Great Weapon Master bonus attack. Late game, the bonus action use of Rage is actually a detriment because you're normally going to be able to set up kills round 1 with your fighter Barb, and having to waste a bonus action pretty much your first turn on Rage, at least late game, is detrimental to me, I feel like. But again, early game is just too good. I think late game, the lack of heavy armor hurts it, but you know, early game with the damage, the flat damage added and damage reduction, undisputed champ with the 3 attacks and advantage, very, very good. I'm going to talk about the 9 Barb 3 fighter build, which is crit focus, in a bit, but you can see highlights right here, and you kind of get an idea, you know, early game, right, and then late game, we'll talk about it again in a bit. Now, we're going back to my preferred playstyle late game, because early game, again, it's not a discussion. Just go Barb 5 and then fighter, whatever else you want, 2 levels, and then back to fighter. Now, level 11 fighter is absolutely amazing. Level 12 fighter is really, really good too. You can go cleric, but because I want to be a Loreful Guts build, the ultimate melee god, again, we go, if you think about it from a lore perspective with Guts, Black Swordsman, Lost Children, he's a pure rage machine of anger and madness. You know, until we get his party back and starts developing relationships, start gaining, you know, himself again, and finding purpose in life. You know, Casca, Farnese, Isidro, and Shirky, right? And the heavy armor, Berserker armor, he becomes more controlled, and now he's even stronger, I feel like, at least. I know the latest chapters are going, we don't know where they're going, actually, with the boat, but we'll see. Now, talk about feats real quick. These are in no particular order, right? Great Weapon Master is a must. Everything else is up to you. Savage Attacker is going to scale better the more die you roll, right? I like to say this with gloves. Late game, you get the gloves that give 23 strength. But if you want to be mathematically optimal, you would use elixirs and the Hill Giant Strength and stack all those up as much as you can early in the game, and then later in the game get the other. I think there are 27 strength elixirs. Somebody in the comments correct me if I'm wrong. But you're going to use these because what's going to happen is with Savage Attacker and especially crit, damage die are much, much better when you have additional damage die rolls from gear. This is not really D&D where you're not getting a lot of gear throughout a campaign. You're getting absolutely disgusting gear in Baldur's Gate 3. Now, that's what Savage Attacker. Heavy Armor Master, I think, is really good. A lot of people don't like it. Durable, Lucky, Martial Adapt, Mobile, Alert, Sentinel, all options. The thing about Fighter that's amazing is that you get 4 options for feats. Pure Fighter is just so good like that. The champ gets much better jump distance. BM is very, very, very good. That's the feat discussion. That is a stat distribution. Always go Great One Master immediately. Then you can go ASI, level 6, level 8 if you're going to go Pure Fighter throughout the game. And you want to get that strength up to add the proficiency bonuses to help offset the Great Weapon Master if you're not able to generate advantage for your party. Talking about advantage, you always want advantage on your fighter, barbarian. Not really barbarian, but your fighter if you're going to be building him as a pure fighter. You especially want it if you're going to go champion. Now, the real choice here with a guts build is going to be Battlemaster champion, right? Versus those two subclasses. Which one is better? There is no clear-cut answer. It really depends. Mathematically, Battlemaster, you cannot quantify the utility it brings. Frighten, drop weapon, trip, generating its own advantage, consistent damage die 1d6 and 1d10 later in the game. These are all things that you're going to get throughout the game. You cannot just quantify that in a DPR calculation. It's unfair to itself to really like, oh, well, this can do trip. How do I measure the efficiency of a trip to the party? You really can't. You can measure the damage die, but again, if you're a late game Battlemaster, you can use up literally all your superiority die in one turn. Yes, if you added a 1d10 to the DPR calculations, I'll talk about it right here. You'll see this right here. Yeah, it's probably going to outweigh champion even with the increased crit range, but you're going to run out of that in one fight. Maybe even 2 turns with, Action Surge, Haste, and all these attacks. So it's not realistic to really quantify that damage roll, but it's on demand, which is very, very good. So it's like, that's something to think about. Very consistent, right? Now, champion. I gave you some, damage ranges when it comes to crit. You're going to have a 19% chance at 19. You're going to get that with level 3. If you go Severox, the helmet in Act 3, your other crit range reducing or increasing, depending on how you look at it. These are going to be your crit chance with advantage and without advantage. TLDR, too long didn't read, always get advantage if champ. Now, I'm going to go on a rant here because this is going to be a very in-depth conversation. A lot of people are like, is crit good? Crit sucks. In D&D, oh, brutal crit is not good enough. Savage crit with Half-Orc is not good enough. Champion's not good enough within crit range. Let's talk about crits. What is a crit? You roll a natural 20, you crit. If you're a champion, you roll 19, you crit. Champion with Severox helmet, 18, 19, 20, you crit. There's a bow in the game later on that reduces crit. Now, I don't think that bow actually is self-contained within the bow. If you have that bow, I do believe it actually increases that 18 to 17 then in this example. So, something to think about. I'm not sure. I didn't test it out yet, but something to think about. But you'll see how much better the crit range gets. Even at 18 with one like Severox or the obscured, the helmet in Act 2 with Dark Justiciar, you're almost at a 30% crit chance. Almost 1 in 3, what is that? 5.25% chance below 1 in 3 crit chance. Very, very, very good. Now, again, what is a crit? You roll those, you get the crit. When it comes to damage, it's an automatic hit crit, right? Let's not, it's an automatic hit if you do crit. The damage, you double your damage. What does that actually mean? That means any damage die you have, whether it's the weapon, the gloves, any other source of flat buffs like elemental weapon, a 1d4 from elemental weapon, whatever, any buffs, you're gonna double that. That's why smite is crazy. All those dies, you're doubling. So let's start basic. You're a greatsword. Great swords dominate the game. All the best legendaries are the best legendary melee is probably Baldur's. I'm going to make an argument for Hellfire's Greataxe in a second. You'll see, but great swords are on base 2d6. You now double the dice. Plural, guys, not die. That's the distinction. So that 2d6 becomes 4d6. Any other source, if you have necrotic gloves that give 1d4, that goes to 2d4. Right? So now you have from 2d6 to 4d6. That's a 4 to 26 range. That 1 to 4 range becomes 2 to 8. So something to think about, right? You'll see I wrote it down here. This is the same thing with Savage Attacker is with the dice. With Savage Attacker is a dice. So you double Savage Attacker, you re-roll and then do whatever. But that's for all damage dice Savage Attacker. That's the feat. Back to crits. Brutal Critical only adds another damage die. It does not double it or triple it again, as it says. What does that mean? that 2d6 on crit becomes 4d6. The brutal crit, it does not become 8d6. It is not exponential growth. It is one additional die, not dice. It becomes a 5d6, a 5 to a 30 damage range. All right. Easy math, right? Not too hard, but that's a crit. So even though you crit, you can still do low damage, right? You get really low on the low end because you might get 5. It's not practical or really mathematically accurate that you're going to get that, but it is a possibility, something to think about. But that's what crit does. You increase your overall damage potential. It is very, very good. I know you might think like, oh, damn, how come the damage rolls don't max out? Hey, it's D&D, whatever. Don't ask me, guys. So, long story short, champion, brutal crit, the 9 champ, 9 barb, 3 champion is good. If you go half orc, I'm going to talk about this right here. It only does weapon die. I think the writing is incorrect. Right quick, brutal crit. Whatever, you land a critical hit, you roll an extra damage die as well as a normal additional critical die. So it's a double, and then you roll the extra damage die. It doesn't say weapon. This should apply with every single damage die that you're calculating. Gloves, any other source of damage die, on hit, whatever. The half-orc is different. It only does with weapon attacks, and it only adds another damage die. It does not triple or double your damage. So I'm going to go down to here, talking about Greatsword versus Greataxe. You crit, you go 2d6 to 4d6, then brutal crit becomes 5d6. If you're the half-orc 2, then it becomes a 6d6. Easy enough, makes sense, right? Now, why am I talking about all this, right? A lot of people get into DPR, damage calculations, and die roll averages. How do you quantify what crit is, right? I do have a little DPR calculation right here, but I really, really hate DPR calculations, whether with advantage or without advantage, because the thing is, like, this is one singular scenario with one singular monster and their AC, right? Like, your DPR is going to change. It's going to fluctuate depending on how many there's some fights with like 7, 8 people, right? Sometimes your hit chance is going to be different. I'm not going to do DPR calculation for an 11, 15, 18, 17, 20 AC monster. It just doesn't make sense, right? Because your DPR might be 13 with a 15 AC monster, and then it's going to change with 17. So that's not right. The 3 attacks, this is DPR per round, a basic formula with a Greataxe. Without advantage and with advantage with increased crit range. That's just something. But anyway, long story short, I don't think the DPR is really favorable. I actually think just calculating your average die rolls, and then in our case, we're going to be a fighter or a barb. We're going to get a fighting style. We're going to get great weapon fighting. We're going to reroll on 1s. This is the great weapon fighting style averages with different die rolls example. Now, some weapons add additional die rolls. This is something to think about. Now, 1d4 now becomes a lot better because now your great weapon fighting die roll is 3. The 1d6 goes from 3.5, 4.16. You'll see that these things are very, very good. A lot of people underrate them, but I think they're excellent. And I wanted to, because it doesn't apply to this build, but you'll see why it's so good. Look at Smite, the average damage die with great weapon fighting. Now, that's just a level 1 Smite. You go level 6 Smite, and I think it's actually 6d8. If you crit, you double that, and then you're getting the great weapon fighting average to increase that base. You're amplifying the amount that you're able to critical, making it a more consistent, higher end output, which is very, 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 very good. Now, what does all this mean when it comes to us as Guts build? What it means is that Greataxe is better for a crit build, right? So if you want to go Greataxe, you'll look at this right here. It starts to outscale it once you get that brutal critical. So you go 1d12, you crit, you go 2d, you go to 2d12. Now you have a 2 to 24, same damage potential. But the thing, real quick about Greataxe versus Greatsword, Greatsword is gonna be more consistently average. Greataxe, you're gonna have higher highs, lower lows. So you know, on average, your Greatsword will be better. But if you want those massive crits, then Greataxe is the way to go. The brutal crit now outscales it, right? Now you go from a 5 to 30 range to a 3 to 36. Start getting higher end with the Greataxe. If you go Half-Orc, now you're going 4 to 44 versus 6 to 36. And you start seeing why the critical on the Greataxe makes more sense. You might go to me, Moses. There's no good Greataxe in the game. Act 3, I know it is Act 3, but Sorcerer Sundries in the vaults, there's going to be a Hellfire Greataxe. I actually think for crit builds, it is much better than Baldurins and other great swords. Not only do you get the increased crit range and a higher high end, where it's just all about the guts, like that most massive damage. I know it's a Greataxe versus Greatsword, I get it, but there's really no like Dragon Slayer type of weapon in BG3, at least in my opinion. The Baldurins dragon, whatever the weapon is, doesn't encompass that to me. Now, even with the +2 versus +3 that the Baldurins has and the topple the big folk, I get it. And the utility it brings, yeah, it is better, but for average damage, the Greataxe is what you actually want to use. And now you see with the 1d6 fire damage that the Hellfire Greataxe has, all of a sudden, the great weapon fighting average of that Hellfire Greataxe is going to be consistently higher. That is 7, that's 11.49 versus 8.33 with the Baldurins. Now, that's not completely accurate because the +2 versus the +3, and I think Baldurins gives like strength or something too. But it's still, on average, is going to be better than Baldurins, right? So it is something to think about. I think Greataxes are very underrated. A lot of people don't talk about it, but that is what I mean, right? So if you guys have any questions about crits or anything like that, let me know and I will answer the comments. You know me, I am very active in my own YouTube. I try to answer every single comment, whether positive or negative. I don't report anybody. I do make mistakes. Obviously, I made a mistake with the Shadowheart lore video. Somebody called me out, and I'm like, all right, man, I got you. Like, I appreciate it. But that is something. So, again, I did talk about the whole adding damage die, right? The more damage die you add, Savage Attacker gets value. I've said this in previous videos, but crit gets even more value. If you truly min-max Half-Orc, again, I know this is a gut, so you're probably not Half-Orc, you're human, but if you want to min-max a companion to be like this crazy crit build, then you would go Half-Orc, you go Brutal Crit, you go Champion, you only get 2 feats, so I would honestly use Great Open Master Savage Attacker, relying on elixirs for strength, not the gloves, because gloves, there's so many gloves in the game that add damage die. So if you have the 1d6, you know, if you go this build and you get the gloves, I think it's 1d6, but even a 1d4, right? You go crit. Not only are you getting, like, you use your Greataxe, you have all these things. Not only are you going from 4d12, a 4 to 46, but now you're doubling that 1d6, for example, right? Let's just do this, for example. Actually, I'll type this out now. Let me do this real quick. That additional fire damage, excuse me, because my mic is right here. That additional fire damage is going to be 1d6. You're going to double. So it's going to be 2d6, right? Brutal Crit is going to add it again. 3d6. And then one more time for the Half-Orc, because that is attached to the weapon. 4d6. And right there, you just really just added like another 4 to 24 range to that damage die, right? So you have... all right, I'll spare you guys the pain and suffering. This is pretty much going to be an example of a Hellfire Greataxe. 1d12 base Greataxe with the 1d6 fire from the Hellfire Greataxe. The Hell Dust Gloves, I looked it up. It's another 1d6. And then let's just say we have only one buff elemental weapon from, I think, Paladin level 9 or higher, right? So, long story short, TLDR, you're going to do a 14 to 108 on 1 crit. That's the damage range, right? Very good, in my opinion, on 1 attack. And you're almost doing with just Severox almost 1 in 3 times. If you get more crit, you're going almost, 2 out of 5 times more if you get to 16. Definitely more than 1 in 3 if you get your crit range of 17. So you see how good crits are. And then you see why Nova crits are effing disgusting, right? So this is, you might think, oh, wow, that's not real. No, it is realistic. Guys, listen. That's literally it. That's a Hellfire Greataxe in Act 3. You add a 1d6 from gloves, early Act 2, or not even early, but let's say Act 2, you get your 1d4 gloves. There's other rings that give you additional damage. If you get like the Acid Ring, it's not too complicated, but that just goes, it doubles on a crit. If you have Brutal, then it goes to 6. It does not scale with the Half-Orc because that is a weapon attack. Same thing with Elemental Weapon. It does not get the Half-Orc because that is a spell concentration type of damage die buff, not an actual weapon. Maybe it does work because it's using the weapon, but I doubt it. But on the safe side, a 4-108 range with a Greataxe is kind of disgusting. That's 4 to 48. Let's go back to the Greatsword. What would the Greatsword be? The Greatsword would be minus 12 off the top end, right? So you're not even getting to 100. You'll be at 98. You'll be at 96, but you have a higher average with the Greatsword. Still very good, in my opinion. Still Very, very, very good. But that's a little mathematical talk about when it comes to crit and what you are getting. I have some information about great weapon fighting here. It is very, very good. It's obviously worth it. If you go pure fighter, you get the 2 what champ, you get another fighting style. Very, very good. But, you know, I wanted to get really into the whole 9 Barb, 3 fighter. I don't think it's the best build, but with brutal crit, you'll see that all of a sudden, a lot of people go, oh, you know what, 3 attacks will outscale it. It might not, right? And at least if you do go 11 fighter, Half-Orc is definitely worth considering. But again, you get an extreme amount of value from brutal crit with additional damage die multipliers. Same thing with Savage Attacker, right? It's the same logic. It works very, very well. And this is not even accounting. That's just 1 spell buff, right? Imagine you're loading your guy up with all these buffs and all these conditional damage die. All of a sudden, it becomes very, very good. You get the Executioner Ring. You're going to guarantee that crit. Ooh, it's the pop off. It is really the most damaging, most melee damage potential besides smites that you can do in one big swing. It's going to be the Greataxe. I still think at the end of the day, the 11 fighter champ or Battlemaster is excellent. It's very, very good. But if you want a little bit different playstyle, you can always go medium armor with the Hellfire Greataxe. And let me fix that. Sorry about that, guys. Hellfire Greataxe, and you can go, you know, a crit focus build. I do think it's good even with 2 feats, but then I would just go Great Weapon Master and Savage Attacker. Also, you know, you're getting the +10 that gets doubled, so it's like very, very good, guys. You know, it's a lot of awesome potential with this crit build. That's pretty much it. Again, please ask any comments or in the comments ask any questions if you have. I hope you guys got some good information from this. And, you know, please refer. This will be saved, and this will be linked in the video. You can always just copy this, and then if you want to add changes, like, oh, what about this, what about that, then you can always do that too with, like, different combinations of the builds and stuff like that. But put a lot of effort into it. I would really appreciate it if you subscribe, liked, and comment. And, you know, oh, one last thing. I don't know if I talked about this, but the whole DPR thing, because I keep having I had to switch mics halfway through this video because the Elgato Wave 3 is utter dog shit. Excuse my language. DPR calculations, I'm not a fan of doing them because they're not accurately represented within an actual real fight. Armor class of monsters changes, conditions change. You can't quantify Battlemaster die. If you get 2 lucky crits, all of a sudden your DPR is like disgusting. You know what I mean? Like it's just not worth it for me to even consider doing this because fights are ever changing and ever flowing, fluctuating with different scenarios and stuff like that. Things change, you're attacking different monsters, but the calculation is here. That's going to be crit with advantage. D is the damage die, hit advantage with hit advantage. D plus B is damage die plus any bonus damage. I did this example with the Hellfire Greataxe with the strength modifier buff of 6. With 1 attack, 13, 3 attacks, 39 with advantage, 43 with 1 attack advantage, 14. That's a monster with 15 armor class. I guess that's like the average. But if you did want that information, it's there. The calculation is there. If you want to run your own little mathematical calculations, put those values, just search them into Google, you know, crit advantage, damage die, hit advantage, times damage plus bonus damage, and you'll get your DPR, and then 3 attacks or 2 attacks, whatever it is, right? But again, that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, like, comment, subscribe. Moses with Negron Tech. Have a good one.